Let's talk about the Iron Bowl, the biggest event in the state of Alabama all year long. So much is determined by this game every year. No matter how good Alabama is, no matter how good or how bad Auburn is, this game is always huge. It is always so culturally significant in the state of Alabama. People not that were not raised in this great state, that have not been in this great state, don't really understand the magnitude of this game. I Auburn fans and Alabama fans have a heck of a ton of respect for each other. They love each other 364 days of the year. I mean, I walk into hospitals in Alabama and I see a Cam Newton jersey right next to a Julio Jones jersey in unison. I mean, they hate each other's football teams, but Alabama and Auburn folks are so nice to each other and there's so much love there, except for on this day. Because you might say to yourself, Ohio State Michigan is the biggest rivalry in college football, or you might think it's Texas A&M, or Texas Oklahoma, or whatever else. And I completely understand that. Those are amazing rivalries. But there is something so unique and special about Alabama versus Auburn. And I love all the stories I've heard about it. And just as always, every single year this game means so much, and it does once again this season. I mean, we all know the circumstances of this game. I mean, my goodness. Every year they play in Jordan Hare Stadium, crazy stuff happens. Like literally all the time. And you might say to yourself, Jordan Hare voodoo, that's not a real thing. That's just something Auburn fans brew up. Or that's just something fans Alabama stretch out of ridiculousness. But it's true. Jordan Hare voodoo is a real thing. And here are the stats that prove that. Since 2008, so pretty much since Alabama has been playing with Nick Saban in Jordan Hare Stadium, Alabama is 8-1 at home against the Tigers with a plus 16 point differential. They've, for the most part, handled business against Auburn in Bryant Denny Stadium, other than, of course, the comeback in 2010. But in Jordan Hare, Bama has struggled mightily. They're 5-3 against Auburn on the road with only a plus 33 differential. So if you don't believe that Jordan Hare has any effect on this game, that's just not true because it 100% does. Those Auburn fans get crazy for this game. This team works so hard for this game. And this is what Auburn prepares for. This is what they're ready for every single season. And the stats just prove that. And so do the amazing finishes. I mean, we've had so many amazing games on these hollowed grounds. You think of 29 or 2009 when Alabama needed their fullback Upchurch to score a touchdown at the very end to beat Auburn, which of course led to an Alabama national championship. Legendary. Everyone remembers the kick six in 2013, one of the craziest innings to a football game ever. I vividly remember watching that game as a kid, and I just didn't even think it was real. It was crazy. In 2019, 48-45, one of the best football games we've ever watched. Jalen Waddle had like 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game. And yet the Jordan Hare voodoo strike to get a 100-yard pick six in this game. Nick Saban had an illegal substitution at the very end. Alabama missed a field goal, a chip shot field goal. Everything happened in that game in 2019. Auburn ended up winning. In 2021, there were the 4 overtime shenanigans. Alabama did not look like they were going to win that game at all. They were down 3-10. They didn't score a point until the fourth quarter. And yet somehow, by the grace of God, what's his name? Ja'Cory Brooks made the huge catch in the corner of the end zone to force it into overtime, and then Alabama outlasted the Tigers on the road to make the playoffs. And then in 2023, everyone remembers that one too. The Gravedigger play, Jalen Miller on 4th and 31, when all seemed lost. Hucks one up to his boy Isaiah Bond in the back corner of the end zone to give the Tide another miraculous win. This rivalry has been so special on the grounds of Jordan Hare Stadium, and that there is nothing better. There's almost no sight better in football than seeing Alabama in those white jerseys and those crimson helmets playing against the Auburn Tigers in their dark blue jerseys and striped Auburn helmets. It's beautiful, and I can't wait to watch it all season long. So let's look at what is at stake for the Crimson Tide. And always, what is at stake for both of these teams in this game is everything. Everything is at stake. And that is 100% the case again this year for the Crimson Tide, not just because they really want to beat Auburn, but because there is so much on the line. If they win, Alabama secures an SEC championship spot, and they have a chance to win the SEC for the first time since 2023. Well, it's only been 2 years, but it's huge for Alabama. Their playoff spot, if they win, is probably sealed. And the only way that it's not, let's just theorize that Alabama wins this game against Auburn, makes it to the SEC championship game, and loses to either Texas A&M or Georgia. There are some people that are going to argue that a 10-3 Alabama would not make the playoffs. But I'm just here to tell you that if the loser of the SEC championship game misses the playoffs, and especially if that team is Alabama, the SEC would lose its ever loving mind. Like I have no idea what would happen. I think college football as itself would just the whole area of the South would just fall off if Alabama goes to the SEC championship, loses, and doesn't make the playoffs. So I'm not saying that that's impossible, but I'm saying that it's very unlikely. I really don't think that's going to be the case. And if they win this game, that's 6 straight wins against the Auburn Tigers, and that hasn't happened since 1973 to 1981, which was a very long time ago. My dad was just born in that time period. So that tells you how long ago that was. Um, and then with a loss, Alabama loses all of that. Literally everything. Everything from this season is gone if they lose this game to Auburn. Their SEC championship game appearance is out of the window. Their playoff spot is probably lost. I mean, I really think it would be at 9-3. The Crimson Tide are ranked number 10 right now. I know a lot of people don't like that, but honestly, whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. Alabama is number 10 right now. And if they lose that game, they're 9-3. They're probably out of the playoffs. Um, and all of this would be lost on the road at Auburn, which is just the worst thing ever for Tide fans. They really don't want to see that. And this would also be back-to-back non-10-win seasons for the Crimson Tide. And listen, I think Kalen DeBoer is amazing. I think he's a fantastic coach who hires an amazing staff. He's a great recruiter, and I think he's done a spectacular job with this football team and having a really successful season, despite not really having all the personnel that he wants to yet. But that being said, if Alabama loses to Auburn, goes 9-3, misses the playoffs for the second straight year, yes, 100% Alabama fans are going to be talking about firing Kalen DeBoer because this fan base doesn't have any patience. And if DeBoer loses it, I mean, they're just going to be talking about it. I'm not saying they should be. I'm not saying that he will be fired. I'm just saying Alabama fans are not going to like the man if he loses to Auburn in this game. Um, so that's what's at stake for Alabama. Literally everything. So what's at stake for Auburn? Pretty much also everything. If they win this game, it is their first bowl game appearance since 2023. Auburn has not gone 2 straight years without making a bowl game since 1998 to 1999. So they don't want to have that happen again. They also would eliminate Alabama from SEC championship contention and from the playoffs. And Auburn fans would love nothing more than to eliminate Alabama from the SEC championship and from the playoffs. It's literally their dream. It would also end the 5-year Alabama win streak. It's not been fun for Auburn fans losing 5 years in a row to the Crimson Tide. And if they win this one in Jordan-Hare, that streak is finally over. But with a loss, well, like I said, that's 2 straight years without a bowl game for the first time since 1998 to 1999. And Alabama would win their 6th game in a row and project themselves onto national championship dreams on your home field. And Auburn really doesn't want to watch that either. So that's what's at stake. If it weren't big enough already in the state of Alabama, just being the Iron Bowl itself, there is still so much at stake in this football game. So let's break it down. Let's look at this Auburn offense. Of course, it's been very inconsistent this year. Everybody knows that. And the main reason for that, in my opinion, is the offensive line just getting absolutely shredded in pass rush. We saw it against Texas A&M. We saw it against Oklahoma. We've seen it against these elite front sevens that the SEC has. They've allowed 41 sacks this year, which is the most in the SEC. It doesn't matter who you put back at quarterback if you're just getting pressured all game long, and that's kind of what Auburn's had to face this season. And because of that, they're only 11th in total yards per game in the SEC. They are dead last in passing yards per game in the conference, which is not great. And I mean, it really isn't. Ashton Daniels is starting this game. He was named the starter, and he didn't play last week, I think, because they wanted to keep his red shirt. But in his 2 starts against Kentucky and on the road at Vanderbilt, just 2 completely different games. I mean, against Kentucky, I was there for that game. I watched that game first person. He looked awful. And of course, their offensive line looked awful, but they couldn't do anything on offense. He had under a 50% completion percentage, only 108 yards passing, 0 touchdowns and an interception. He just did not look good. But against Vanderbilt, he looked phenomenal. He looked like a completely different person out there. Was 31 for 44, 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it seems like Ashton Daniels is very hit and miss. If he's missing, Deuce Knight and Jackson Arnold are lingering. Deuce Knight looked phenomenal last week against Mercer. He's young. He's very athletic. And Jackson Arnold, we know what he can do against Alabama. He beat the Crimson Tide last year on the Oklahoma Sooners. So Auburn has options at the quarterback position. I don't know if either of those 3 options are overwhelmingly amazing, but they are options. That's just something to look out for. But The main concern that Alabama needs to have about this Auburn offense is their rushing attack. They are seventh in the SEC in rushing yards per game, and Auburn runs a ton of jet motion. They put Jeremiah Cobb in the backfield, who's been great this year. Jeremiah Cobb's been fantastic. And they get their athletic quarterback, whether it's Jackson Arnold or Ashton Daniels, and they bring Eric Singleton in motion, and they either fake it to him and run GH counter, they give it to him, or they fake all that and give it to Jeremiah Cobb. And it is tough to guard. It is what tore up Georgia. Georgia could not stop Auburn, at least their rushing attack, in the first half. They really struggled. What you need to stop this rushing attack is elite eye discipline. And I think that's the main thing that Auburn needs to have, because the main thing that Alabama needs to have against this Auburn offense. Auburn also, they don't turn the ball over. I mean, their quarterback play, of course, hasn't been great, but they've only turned the ball over 6 times all year, which is third in the nation. So Alabama's going to have to work for it on offense. They're not going to get any short fields, at least in my opinion. But all that talk about this Auburn offense, also Cam Coleman lingering down there. He's a great player. Speaking of high point footballs, he's a great one-on-one threat. Let's look at this Alabama defense, though. They have been phenomenal this year. I feel like Alabama's defense has not been talked about nearly enough for their elite play in 2025. They are first in the SEC in yards allowed per game. They have been so good against the pass. I mean, first in the SEC in passing yards allowed per game, fourth in the nation. They're only giving up 148 passing yards per game. And the crazy part about that is they're not getting to the quarterback at a consistent basis. Deontay Pierre only has 5 sacks this year. He's their leader. He did do that in 4 games, but only 5 sacks. They only have 23 sacks as a unit this year, which is only 10th in the SEC. So they're not getting pressure. They're not winning at the offensive or at the defensive line. And yet their secondary has been so good because their coverage has been phenomenal. They don't run around a man coverage, but Dijon Lee has been spectacular this year. Xavier Brown has been really, really good. Their 2 corners are elite. And then Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard have been eliminating almost everything down the field. Alabama hasn't allowed very many deep shots at all this season. They allowed 1 to South Carolina against Nick Harbor. But outside of that, I mean, I don't really remember any deep shots that Alabama has given up this entire season. The one to Squirrel White in the Florida State game happens. That was 1-1 with Dijon Lee. But even this is his first game of the year. But anyway, this Alabama defense has been phenomenal against the pass. But Auburn can't really throw the ball anyway. So I don't think that's very much of a concern. If Auburn was this amazing passing offense that relied on their receivers to make plays down the field and their quarterback to throw for 400 yards a game, to stay in check with opponents, then I would be concerned because Alabama's defense would negate that. But Auburn doesn't even want to pass the ball. They want to run the ball. That's what they're trying to do. That's what statistically they're good at. And Alabama this year has struggled to stop the run. They're 9th in rushing yards allowed per game in the SEC. And I talked about Auburn running a lot of jet motion. I've talked about Auburn, bringing people across the formation, having a lot of eye candy, keeping it with an athletic quarterback. You know who else runs an offense like that? Florida State. That's the most similar offense that I can find to Auburn's that Alabama has faced is Florida State. And Alabama allowed like over 200 rushing yards against Florida State. So I'm just saying, it's something to look out for. It's something to be nervous about, is the jet motion rushing attack from the Auburn Tigers that Alabama struggle to attack. I mean, everyone says all the time, Alabama struggles against mobile quarterbacks. It's true. And they will be attacked by mobile quarterback play this weekend. But with that being said, let's look at Alabama's offense. Ty Simpson has had a very peculiar season. He had an 8-game stretch right after the Florida State game where he had an average quarterback rating of 86.1. That's out of 100. That's really, really good. That's Heisman level good. That's why he was leading the Heisman odds for a couple weeks. And he was spectacular in those games against Georgia, against Vandy, against Missouri, against Wisconsin. He was just absolutely balling out. But the last 2 games against Oklahoma and against Eastern Illinois, his QBR has dropped from 86.1 to an average of 56.9. So, yes, Ty Simpson is human, and he has struggled the last couple weeks. But, I mean, throughout the season, they've been great through the year. They're 3rd in passing yards per game in the SEC. But the story of the year offensively for the Crimson Tide has been their lack of a rushing offense. They are 13th in the SEC in rushing yards per game. And the only reason they're 13th and not last is because they ran the ball for over 250 yards against Eastern Illinois and against Louisiana Monroe. So they kind of stat padded. But against the SEC teams, Alabama has not been able to run the ball at all. I think maybe the answer to a somewhat consistent run game for the Crimson Tide could be just giving the ball to Daniel Hill. He was really good against Oklahoma. I think he's a much better running back than Jam Miller because he just gets downhill. I mean, he doesn't really have the burst and the athleticism that Jam Miller does. But Alabama's their creases are not open for very long. So you got to hit them. And Daniel Hill does a really good job at getting downhill, and it is hard to tackle that cat because he's like 6'1", 240 pounds of thighs. So it's really hard to bring him down. Jeremy Bernard's been their best receiver this year, 676 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. So whoa, that's not. He's got more than 2 touchdowns. That's probably incorrect, but the yards is definitely correct. And Alabama has taken care of the ball pretty well this year. They're 11, or they only have 11 turnovers all season, which is tied for 26th in the nation. And they've been elite on third down. I mean, if you want to beat this Alabama offense, if you want to get stops, you have to get up off the field on third down. They are 14th in the nation in third down percentage. We saw what they did against Georgia. They didn't miss a third down in the first half. And I think overall in the game they were 13 of 19 on third down against Kirby Smart, which is otherworldly. So if you want to limit this Alabama offense, you have to get up off the field on third down, which is really hard to do because they're an elite third down team. So let's look at what Auburn's been able to do on defense. Auburn is kind of middle of the pack statistically, defensively in the SEC this year, but their front seven is great. Their secondary a little banged up, but their front seven and their rushing defense has been phenomenal. They're only giving up 94 yards per game. Xavier Atkins has been a big reason for that. He is a unit. He's only 6'2", 210. Like he's not this huge, menacing hitting linebacker. He's like a hybrid safety, but he just has a nose for the ball. He makes plays, and he will always give 110% on the field. And this Auburn defense, I'm telling you what, Alabama has not been able to run the ball consistently at all in the SEC this year. They are not doing it against Auburn. Auburn's run defense is great. They have some big, scary dudes in that front seven. I don't think Alabama's going to be able to run the ball. The only success I could find from Alabama offensively in this game would be throwing the ball, which is what they want to do. It's their strong suit. It's just Ty Simpson needs to dial it in. He has not been great the last couple weeks. He needs to improve this week against an Auburn pass rush that is also pretty good. I mean, they're 28th in the or they have 28 sacks this year, which is 6th in the SEC. I thought, and everyone else thought, Kendrick Falk was going to be their just front man in terms of pass rushing. Their dynamite speed rusher. He's only had 2 sacks this year. I still think he's a really good player. I still think his hands are some of the best hands I've seen in college football this year in terms of his quickness and how he gets off blocks. But only 2 sacks this year. He's not been killing people out there. Xavier Atkins is the one who leads this Auburn team with 7.5 sacks, so maybe he can get some pressure tonight. But digesting all that, thinking about the voodoo magic in Jordan Hare, and I see that. But Auburn, man, they're only 5-6. Their offense has not been great. How could I pick the Auburn Tigers in this game? I mean, Ashton Daniels, I saw him firsthand. He was terrible against Kentucky. How can I do it? And Alabama's been so much better this year. They're 9-2. I mean, they have a chance to make the playoffs. They have so much more to play for. So how could I pick the Auburn Tigers to win this game? Well, Auburn has great jet motion offense. Alabama struggles to stop that jet motion. Auburn's front seven is dynamic. Alabama can't run the ball. And listen, folks, I have been an Alabama fan all my life. My dad went to Alabama. I love my dad. I have so much family that are all Crimson Tide fans, and I love them all. I love my grandparents, Papa and Nana. I love my sweet Aunt A. And I love them all, and I love being an Alabama fan. I'm a student at the University of Alabama right now. It's a great, phenomenal place. And you have to understand, this goes against literally every Alabama fiber in my body. But I have to just stay constant to what I believe, to what the research has shown me, to what I think is going to happen. And I do think Auburn is going to find a way to win this game. I've got the Auburn Tigers upsetting Alabama in Jordan Hare, 23-20 in a close, low-scoring game to knock the Crimson Tide season on its head and to propel them into bowl eligibility. Like I said, I think the jet motion run game with Daniels, Singleton, and Cobb really is going to give Alabama problems. I think they'll win the turnover battle because Auburn does not turn the ball over, and Alabama has the last couple weeks, so I think they're going to be plus there. And then, I mean, getting up off the field on third down is really tough. Georgia couldn't, Missouri couldn't, but Oklahoma did, so I believe Auburn might have a chance. I mean, Alabama could very well win this game. Now that I'm saying this, now predicting Auburn to win, Alabama's definitely going to win because I'm predicting them to lose. That's happened all season long. But I think Alabama's linebackers are key in this game. Justin Jefferson and Deontay Lawson and Nikhai Hill-Green have to step up and play well. They have to have good eye discipline. Forcing third down and longs is key. I just don't think they can. Some animals moving out there. Sorry about that. They also can't turn the ball over, and their wide receivers need to win against man covers. They haven't done that consistently all season long. and they cannot have special teams mistakes. Special teams disasters have plagued this Alabama team all season long. If they have those in Jordan Hare, I mean, that place is going to be rocking. It's going to be raucous. Everything's going to go wrong. Um, I love all my Alabama family. Please don't hold this one against me. I just have a feeling, man. The research just showed me that I think Auburn's going to win it. I will be cheering my heart out for Alabama. No hate to Auburn fans. I think it's a great university. I love the campus at Auburn. It's a fantastic place. But I have to pick Auburn in this game. I have to. But if there's one thing you get from this video, it is not that this is a great rivalry. It's not that I think Auburn's going to win. Um, it is that Jesus Christ is the true fulfillment in your life. If you ever are stressed or worried or nervous or anxious, and you can't find the answers always lie with Jesus. He is your true fulfillment on earth, and He loves you more than you could ever comprehend, and He's always there for you no matter what. So choosing Him will lead you to everlasting life. And just look at the Bible verse I have on my screen right now, Romans 6:23. It's a great one. You should go check it out. And with that, God bless, folks. Thanks so much for watching, and enjoy Rivalry Weekend.